Mr. Cochran was.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. I would also like to take a moment of silence for the recent death of a Marion County High School teacher and a great citizen in the county, Mr. Paul Spalding. Thank you all.
Judge, while we're at it, could we also have a moment of silence? I know Mr. John Paul Martis, his wife passed away. He was, of course, a long-time employee and retired from the county, so if we could have a moment of silence for Ms. Martis and the family as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Chad, you the roll call, please.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Wickett.
Here.
Mr. Bishop.
Here.
Mr. Marshall.
Here.
Mr. Quill.
Here.
All present.
We do have a quorum and we can proceed. The first item on the agenda is to consider approval of minutes of the previous meeting held Thursday, September the 3rd, 2015.
Motion.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop. Yes. Mr. Quill.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Wickett.
Yes.
The second item on the agenda is consider appointment of Lisa Nally Martin to the Health Board.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop. Yes. Mr. Quill.
Yes.
Mr. Wickett.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Absolutely.
Unanimous.
The third item on the agenda is we do have some citizens here in the county. That's Julie Peak out in Tatum and Greg Nugent are some concerned citizens are here today to discuss some concerns they are having with land use, deed restrictions, and their views on how county ordinances could help in the county. Julie, if you'd like to say a few words, or Greg, or anybody would like to, we're here to listen. So.
Yes, I would just like to ask, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and ask due diligence in those who are present and in the position to do so. I would ask that you please consider strongly doing something in regards to the matter that is somewhat, as you're familiar, Springfield just recently passed a beautification ordinance, I believe, and it would help with buildings that are in bad shape, things that are not very attractive to the eye. But also in that line, it goes farther than that. We may not have yet considered all of the matter, because people that are living in houses like this, they have no running water, there are no septic systems, and as long as there are premises like this available for people to rent, a lot of them are living at homes with children under these unsanitary and unfit conditions. If this continues, it is going to, the matter is going to, I think, probably get out of hand. I do know it is kind of contagious, as bad habits are, because I've already recently saw another site where people are using temporary electricity as a permanent source. All they need to do the next year is to get someone to inspect it again and pay their annual fee and continue on using it as a permanent electrical source. I've called everybody from Washington down with the EPA to try to take care of this matter. I worked on it for approximately 6 months the year I retired from teaching. I got nowhere. Actually, people that worked in those areas were surprised themselves that you could live in conditions as such. And I've taught for 27 years. There are epidemics that easily start with unsanitary health habits, such as shigellosis, dysentery, just to name a couple. And when we do not take, if we opt to turn a blind eye against this and do nothing, then children are going to continue living in these unfit conditions. And not only is it not appealing to the eye, but it goes far beyond being eyesores. And we seriously need to consider doing something as a community before we become somewhat like Shantytown. And I beg due diligence in your listening. Thank you for your patience, and I for those in the positions to do something about it. I appeal to you to please consider this. I know that it's been discussed before, but as long as we continue to just think about it and talk about it and we don't take actions, it won't take long before people begin to catch on that you can live like this, and there will be multiples of residences in these conditions. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Greg, you're out. Y'all want to say anything?
Well, I've talked to several of you about passing some type of nuisance ordinance as far as dilapidated buildings, unkept property, and of course, John also got a copy of the draft that I had made that can be worked from, and it's basically a combination of the Nelson County their nuisance ordinance, minus certain really restrictive sections, and also one section of the KRS. Kentucky already has the KRS that defines what is legal and what is basically illegal and considered a nuisance, but it's up to the court to enact an ordinance setting regulations as far as grass and weed height and stuff like that before they can enforce it. Right now, Keith said in the past, if there's junk on the property, then, he can do something about the junk. But other than that, his hands are tied. He has nothing to back him up, even if he wanted to be able to help somebody out. So.
Judge, do you have a copy of Mr. Wilkes?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And I will say this, thank you very much, Mr. Nugent, for sending this to me after I sent you an email. I appreciate it. I don't guess the whole court has a copy of that, do
I
they?
thought I put it in the last packet,
Okay.
but maybe I
But
did.
a couple of questions real quick, Keith. I want, listen to Ms. Peak there. So, for example, like the temporary electric, I'm trying to get educated here. So they get the temporary electric. My question is, though, is that what do they do about, for example, I mean, can you keep living there without having some type of septic tank or sewer system legally?
Well,
You can, as long as you claim that you are composting your human waste. I've called everybody in EPA, from solid to liquid waste, air pollution, you name it, I've spoken with them. And many of those people were appalled the next day when I called them back to find out information. They were appalled to find out that you could actually do that because they didn't think you could either.
Gotcha.
Well, you can actually still have an outhouse or something.
I'm sorry.
We're talking about a matter of health problems that could start up
Yeah.
because of this. You're talking about children that are going to continue to live in these conditions.
Well, I understand. I just want, and let me say this, Ms. Peak, I know I've been out through there and so forth, and I know what you're talking about. I just want to know from Mr. Brock from the Health Department, because I know you have an experience with that, what is there, or what are the regulations that are in force right now?
Is
for
the
example?
temporary electric from the electric company, or is it from like an extension cord or something?
Called Mr. Coyne, he is electrical inspector for the state. He went out to examine the premises that is the root of my problem originally. Originally thought, no, can't do that. Yes, it was an electrical cord ran from the temporary pole to the house, and.
But I mean, there was a temporary pole, because I know of one instance where a guy had like 3 trailers. The first one had electric meter, water and everything. He ran a big extension cord from that to 2 more and a water hose. I thought maybe that's what she's talking about. That's kind of temporary.
The only original household that there is.
That's called a community, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
that's what I was wondering, yeah.
So let me ask you, Mr. Brock, if you don't mind, if you get back to my question, I appreciate it. From the Health Department standpoint, what do you know of as is the law?
When you investigate a nuisance complaint regarding a sewer,
Okay.
usually if your municipal or some kind of a water supply is hooked to that structure, you would assume that they would have some kind of flush or some kind of a toilet septic type system in place to account for any gray or black water.
Mhm.
If they don't have a water source, then first of all, outhouses are not approved anymore. The health department cannot approve an outhouse.
Do they have to be I know people that's got them because they've never had anything else, so they're not,
Kind of grandfathered in.
I mean, if there's one there, you can't make them move.
No.
Yeah,
Kind
that's
of
right.
grandfathered in. But you can't allow an outhouse to be built in lieu of putting in a septic system of some sort.
Right.
Now, when they would be required to have a septic system, is if they had flush-type toilets, some kind of a water supply hooked to it.
So what if they don't? That's my question. What if they don't?
They can approve, if they can prove that a composting-type toilet or sanitary facility is present on the property.
Like an outhouse?
No, it's not a composting. It's kind of a poor man's composting, but there are approved composting-type toilets.
So
Can
here's,
the health department
Yeah,
check and make sure it's doing it right?
That's a health department function.
yeah, so here,
We're not, from a fiscal court standpoint, we're not going to enforce health department law.
no, we can't. No, that's not our job. Yeah, that's not our job.
But I'm not going to do sewage laws.
You sure? I mean, would you like to?
No.
No, okay. Well, here's the bottom line.
Fertilizer health department.
You know, it's something we have to keep in mind here is that what we're talking about is the future, because the fact is, any ordinance that we pass, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Nally Martin, but any law, or excuse me, any ordinance we pass in regards to nuisance regulation or whatever it might be, when it is voted in and the court approves it and it takes effect from that point. Anything before then, technically, there's nothing that we could do because they were grandfathered in, or they were already there, or they were already, whatever the situation is. That's where it falls back to, whether it be state law or local health department regulations, so forth, okay? Just to make that clear. But in looking at Mr. Nugent's, Judge, if you could just email that out to everyone, in looking at the copy of the ordinance that you gave me, there's several things in there I think that are very good in regards to, for example, the dwellings and so forth, things of that degree. There's some things that aren't in there, for example, like dumping, okay? I totally, another thing, we need to identify farming and farming applications, okay? So obviously, if you have manure that comes from a dairy farm or from a cattle farm, whatever, obviously you got to be able to spread that. But outside that, there's also issues I think we need to look at, like dumping, for example, bringing in material, dumping that material that's not created or made from, say, a farm application, okay? But anyhow, I think what we need to do is look at if you could send it out, we could look at it and kind of review from there.
I'm reluctant to talk about this when I don't have anything sitting in front of me.
Yeah, I understand. It's just conversation.
The whole court should have this, or, I think need to kill it until everybody looks at it, and then let's talk about it.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing, well, let's put it this way, all we have is, all we've looked at is a working document. So that working document, this is just a conversation in regards to the individuals taking their time to come to the meeting to, discuss or to talk about what some of the concerns are. There's nothing in writing, there's nothing been approved, there's nothing looked at, but you got to start somewhere, and I think Mr. Nugent's document that he sent out is a good start. So you're right. That's why I asked Judge to send it out so that we could review it. It's not a perfect document. There's a lot of things in there that I think personally go a little bit too far, but at the same time, I think that it is something that we can start with. And you got to be careful with it, and I don't mean this wrong, but you got to be careful with it, because you got to remember, whatever we do sets the precedence for future courts, okay? So,
Keith, they can get a water meter set without an approved septic system?
If it's farming, like to a barn or something,
But not to a residence,
I don't know
think.
about, I know they can get them for a barn, or cattle waters and stuff like that, but, that's not a residence, but.
Don't know that. I don't know what the current regulations are about setting water meters or even getting electrical service. I know the health department now has to sign off on it, and that's been in the last 15 years.
on electrical service?
Pardon?
Are you saying they have to sign off on electrical service?
They have to sign off on some municipal
Yeah.
function, either electrical,
Thanks to
maybe
water.
electrical and water.
I think it's the water, I don't think it's electrical, because a lot of barns have electric, no water.
Being said, you can get a temporary service, electrical service, and there maybe is a renewal function in that every year where you can continue to renew it and have electrical service.
But I know when they ran the water on Scotch Ridge, I helped get a lot of those people signed up for that. Those people, they could sign up for a meter, and a lot of them got free meters through that grant, but they had to have an approved septic system
That's true.
before they could get a meter.
And the reason that's if you have running water, you would assume that they were going to hook that to functioning plumbing, and they need a septic system. If they don't have a water meter, then they could use a composting toilet or some other means of human waste disposal.
And they would still approve that for it.
It's my understanding that the health department has looked at this problem that Ms. Peak.
I'm gonna have to Google composting toilet. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm gonna have to Google that.
I think Mr. Tatum can probably tell you.
Well, that's right.
As far as the water meter and such, you go down here, pay your $865 to get a water meter set. You can have water on your premises. You can hook a hydrant to it, which I think what they're talking about for Julie, maybe one of them, that's what's been done. As far as temporary service on power, the temporary service is set up strictly to do a temporary building as such. And most people, when you ask for temporary, they give you 90 days to get you a house under construction. And that's what it's for. But like she said, and what's been told to me, through KU and inter-county, they don't always see things eye to eye. KU will take and
Renew it.
just keep, as long as you pay the bill, and they'll go ahead and hook it up and keep it going. And inter-county, they don't necessarily supposed to do that. Inspector is here now, has moved it from 90 days to a year. You can have temporary service to do something. I don't know why it's been changed. But that's
Now,
what it
when
is.
you say the inspector, you mean the electrical inspector?
Electrical
It's the
inspector.
inspector from Marion County.
But
Electric.
that's what confuses me. You know, I just got through building a house. I had temporary service. They inspected the temporary pole. When I got through doing all the wiring, they inspected. I wasn't gonna get hooked, I wasn't gonna move in until they inspected and said it's okay. So I don't see how in the heck anybody can keep on doing a temporary service on and on and on.
There's nothing to, excuse me,
That's why it's temporary.
there's nothing to restrict.
Temporary is
I
temporary.
mean, I got it straight from Mr. Coyne, the state electrical inspector himself, because he went out and looked and he said, yep, it's been inspected, it's okay. And then I said, so you're telling me you can live off that energy source for life, that could be his permanent source? And he said, well, said he will have to have it inspected again, and at that time, if there's very different times, they get 6 months, 9 months, I think this month instead of for a year. And then he said, at that time, his time runs out, if he doesn't come back in to have it re-inspected and pay his fee again, then he will be cut off. And I said, what if he does? And he said, well, then we will turn it back on. I said, so what you're really saying in reality is that a temporary service can actually be a permanent electrical service as long as you continue every year to pay your inspection fee, and you're good to go.
I get temporary loan.
As far as I know, he has no running water at all. That's the key.
What's the oversight?
Running water, you don't have to have any.
That's cool. What's the oversight on his inspector and what's going on here? That sounds plumb out of folk kilter to me.
Well, I mean, that's,
Call him up here and find out.
it's covered.
You already
Yeah.
Julie, that's,
Every inspector have their own ideas and pretty much set their own rules.
We already went, didn't we?
Their hands not caught or smacked for or something.
Well, here's the
Some
deal.
challenges made to them. And your companies, they have their.
They got their own rules.
Well, is it Mr. Shannon, the chief
No.
guy around now?
No, he's moved on.
He took him over. I've got his number.
Mike Shannon he's the chief of state now.
Yes, well,
He is a state inspector. Coyne is a private contractor.
He took Mike's place.
yeah, but Mr. Shannon is actually the guru now.
Back in April,
Well-
replaced Mr. Ken Leathers. Mike Shannon is, I guess, top of the public.
Yeah, and we appointed Mr. Neat,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Oh, we might need to discuss
that?
this.
Was that a 4-year term, or what is that? 1 year?
But if the electrical companies, if they let them renew it, then really once he inspects it, for temporary, if he lets them keep renewing their, temporary,
Yeah.
then I don't know what he can do about that, because
Well, see, yeah, and that,
The
it
state
falls,
says it's okay, they're supposed to let it go, aren't they?
Alton, correct me if I'm wrong, but really, it seems like it really falls back on the electrical companies.
It does to a certain extent. See, they hooked up meters, temporary,
Right.
for a construction of whatever you write down and say that's what it's for.
Like Steve's house, for example.
They expect you in the past to have you something built or started within 90 days. You have to show progress, or that temporary can be disconnected because it's not using, and they're
So they have
not using enough meter, using enough power to justify them going out there and doing that.
Mhm.
So that's what it's all put in place for. But these people, I think that Julie and everyone's concerned with, they are figuring around the system and getting things here and.
Is that inter-county or KU? It's inter-county out there, isn't it?
There are no restrictions in place. According to Tony, it was like, we can't do anything about it. He said that's the way it is. So it was, that wasn't done in as far as I know.
Is it
I
a
can
trailer?
understand the water hose deal
camper?
to somewhere else, years ago.
This
Years
one has no
ago.
water at all.
Water hose thing to go somewhere else.
No, this one has no
Where's it
water.
at out there?
Ed Daniel told me point blank, you putting a meter in.
Not this one. This one has no water.
Oh,
It chose
but-
not to have water at all. Therefore, he does not have to have a septic system. on.
They can, yeah.
Jim had
But
water.
he's got a temporary electric.
Off his line down to my trailer.
So let me ask you this, I'm sure our fine county attorney wouldn't mind contacting inter-county and seeing exactly what, or seeing if they can, what the time frame is and what exactly are their regulations and what can they and can they not do, because the first step would be to make sure that they are truly enforcing their regulations or the power or authority they have. And then on that particular situation, then we can go from there. But I think we need to find out what inter-counties, and it would be nice to know KUs as well, but what is their policy as far as temporary power?
Well, if I may speak now, and I agree with what Julie and all says, but my problem is, and I've talked to Keith and David, we've had some good conversations on this, but there's no accountability and nobody to enforce what Marion County has. And just like if you buy a piece of property, and I did, paid big money for some of it, but I've got a big investment, and situations arising like this on properties that are part of what you bought, and there's deed restrictions on there, and they read them off at the day of sale. Well, they expect everybody to go with what they say, but nobody has got any kind of enforcement. That's why, to me, it looks like we're going to have to set something in place for zoning, or something like zoning, to be able to get some meat in it, and have somebody that goes out here and says, no, you can't do this.
Well, you can, let me say
The
that.
only way you can do anything about it, and I went the full gamut now of it, is file suit, a class action suit against a person that you feel that you got a problem with. And then if he wins, you up against the wall. If you win, there's the court system will have something done with that.
That's what I was going to ask that. And how a realtor stands up and says all this,
Who
who's
enforces it?
responsible? Why is that realtor not responsible if he stands up and tells all this?
Who's going to enforce it?
No one's responsible. It's just quoted, and you put restrictions on it.
Well, let me say this. First of all, that all starts with the property owner, okay? The property owner can put, whether it be
Restriction.
trailers, whatever it might be, the property owner can put those restrictions in. At the date of sale, that information is relayed, which legally it has to be relayed, so that when you purchase a property, you know you're full of content of understanding what is there and what is involved with purchasing the property. Once that's stated, and let's say that, technically, the court system is what's there to enforce it. Is that correct? Because then, if you buy a tract and I buy a tract, okay, and it says that there's to be no metal buildings, okay, and I put up a 40 by 40 metal building, okay, my deed specifically states that, okay, the transaction, so forth, of what that situation is. Technically, you as an adjacent landowner, you're the one that has to take that individual to court.
Yeah, the
Okay.
county doesn't, it's the
No,
Does the
individual.
realtor put that in the deed?
He just
The
transferred.
restrictions
Restrictions are in the deed, yeah,
They're in the
restrictions
deed.
are always in the deed.
That's like a civil,
Well,
Unless you.
It's a burden upon the purchaser to do it.
yeah, it
Hire an
is.
attorney
You
to
know,
go after.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just telling you, I mean, as you know,
It shouldn't have to be the case. What it should be is have somebody that's got the ability and the authority to go out there after the landowner that's got the problem, says, I've got.
Well, see,
this stuff,
yeah,
these people are doing this.
and again, here's the situation, correct, Ms. Natalie Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the attorney here, but when it comes to a deed restrictions, okay, that's a legal issue, okay, so that would be handled through the court system. That's your only point of recourse right now, you're correct. The only thing that could happen other than that is if we did have some type of ordinance to, and here's the thing, our ordinance will not cover everything. It's not going to do everything if it's not going to happen. But it can cover certain things. That's when it falls back in regards to the county to enforce the ordinances that we create, okay? But as far as a deed on a property and so forth, it's always going to fall back, correct? It's always going to fall back to the adjacent landowner or the contiguous landowner to go to hire an attorney and go through it from a legal
Let me ask a
standpoint.
question on this. I sell some property, John Arthur buys, I got restrictions. John Arthur sells to Lisa. Does that restriction pass down to Lisa?
It does.
Yes, it does. Those original deed restrictions, yes.
That's what happened to Mr. Tatum. He bought a piece of property and the person that bought it, the property beside him, sold it to someone else. And it clearly states the
In the-
same exact deed was recorded as the previous deed. The same restrictions are in there. No mobile homes.
That's why you do a deed and title search, is because you want to know, before you buy that property, you should do a deed and title search, realistically, make sure it's clear title, make sure that, is there anything two previous owners back or whatever that's stipulated on that deed. Now, you know, but I know how it works, you're right.
But the thing about it, there's no enforcement.
Exactly.
Right, the only
That's
enforcement's
you.
hiring a lawyer and going to court.